I'll just be scout. There we go. And I will select this mission again. Right? Solo. Challenging. Yeah, okay. Advance my current assignment. Nice. And I guess with that said, I'll actually launch into the things that I want to talk about. Now that we're 20 minutes in. First among them being some news that initially I was skeptical about seeing headlines on TV, at least. But is actually big enough that I think maybe it'll see prime time either way. So yesterday, story dropped that Pfizer, one of the companies that manufactures COVID vaccines, decided to increase its prices from $1.18 per dose to $130 per dose, which is a 10,000% markup. And this would take effect in the beginning of 2023, right? And initially, I thought like, oh, well, this is awful and dystopian, but I actually don't think that any news outlets would like show this on TV. I think that's like they get too much money from the pharmaceutical industry to like consider doing that, right? But what my dad actually pointed out to me is that this is an extenuating circumstance. We have actually in recent memory a pandemic that this exact medicine is meant to address, and you know, many parts of the world still are not, you know, out of the pandemic phase and into the endemic phase. They need these vaccines very badly. And I think because this medicine is more desperately needed and more in the news cycle than most medicines, it will see television news headlines. It's already been making a lot of rounds on the online news circuit, starting with the classics, Reuters and the Associated Press, going all the way on to even the likes of People magazine are running this story, because it's like the story in itself, without adding anything, is so sensational that you could just run it and you instantly have people's attention. You know, for a lot of people, $130 is prohibitively expensive. And multiply that by 2 doses, now that's $260. And any boosters after that, $130 each. And this is one of unironically, this is a very strong argument in favor of single-payer health insurance, or single-payer health care, and the abolition of the private market for health insurance, or at least the regulation of it to like the nth degree. You know, because this has been done with other medicines before. And it will be done with other medicines after, if we don't shape up like the rest of the developed world and decide that medicine is not something that we want to have solely subject to the whims of the market. You don't have insurance, that's why you don't go to the doctor. Not having insurance is a smart move, honestly. Like, there are statistics that show this. Sometimes, because of the way that insurance companies work, it is an extortion racketeer by a nicer name. They charge you for anything that they could conceivably charge you for, even if it doesn't make sense, because insurance companies need to make money. Or not need to, they want to. So, there are instances where an uninsured hospital visit or doctor's visit would be less expensive than a insured hospital or doctor's visit, because in the scenario where you're uninsured, all you're paying for directly is the services of the hospital. And while most hospitals in the United States are private and still charge you, it's pretty straightforward. And furthermore, you can actually reduce that price if it still seems unreasonable by asking for an itemized list of expenses. There are certain things that the hospital can't charge you for that they do anyway, but if you ask them to show you what you're being charged for, they no longer can charge you for it. However, what insurance companies do is basically add an extra layer to that. They, quote unquote, negotiate with the hospital to oftentimes increase the price. Even though they end up footing a significant amount of the bill, you still get left with the deductible. That's the amount that you pay out of pocket. And as a result of how high the prices get when the two entities are negotiating, sometimes the deductible is higher than the straight up price of health when you're just not insured. But yes, under any other circumstance, if it were, let's say, insulin, like it was a few years ago, that was increased, I think, by a margin of 600%. Or, what was it that Martin Shkreli did? Like the one pharma guy that actually got arrested for this because he stepped on the toes of the executives. Then I wouldn't expect to see news headlines as a result of this. But because it's so sensitive in the current political landscape, basically what I'm saying is the only reason that this even made headlines at all is because the companies that manufacture, or namely Pfizer got greedy, and they got greedy too quick. If they had waited, they would have gotten away with this scot-free. But now, imagine how bad it would look for, imagine how bad it looks that you have this drug that is the key to ending a worldwide pandemic, and you are keeping it behind in what is, in some cases, a prohibitively expensive paywall to make as much money off of it as you can, with little to no regard for the actual health of the people involved. Because the thing about sicknesses is that they disproportionately affect the poor, because medicine costs money in a lot of cases. So they're effectively prolonging the pandemic. Such is the nature of any disaster, really. Because poor people don't have the insulation of money and economic security, when things go bad, you don't have that, little amount of money saved for a rainy day. Everything hurts worse. So, I guess, shout-outs to America for having privatized medicine. And, it's freedom, actually, when you pay $130 for one vaccine, where you previously paid $1. And keep in mind, we already paid for this. We already paid for the production and distribution of these vaccines through government subsidization of research and development. The government actually does a lot of R&D stuff. They give a lot of money to research institutions, universities, things like that for research. But then, because these drugs are under patents and stuff like that, companies get to charge people again. And also because we have a market economy, people think it would be insane to just give medicine to people or just have it be free over the counter. Because then, I don't know, people would get 9 million doses of the COVID vaccine or something. The only research is how much coke a frat bro can snort in 5 minutes. I mean, you'd be surprised. You could name just about any available drug, and the research for that was most likely funded by government money. Meaning people who paid taxes have already paid for that medicine before they even see it at the store. By the time it's gotten to you, you've already 99% vaccine, 1% man. But in the game of profiteering, nothing's ever enough, unless an institution that has the authority to make law puts their foot down and says, no, that's enough, otherwise we will punish you for this. So if you pay taxes for melatonin, why you gotta buy it at the store? Easy, because the pharmaceutical lobby is the biggest lobby in government, and they have successfully bought off enough people to basically let them still charge you for it at the store. Used to be, and there's nothing stopping them from doing that. In fact, market forces actually encourage companies to drive prices up to the point where people can't afford them. This is why cancer treatment costs tens of thousands of dollars, because of a little thing called inelastic demand. Now that's a big brain economic term, but what it means is basically it is worth so much to people that you cannot afford to go without it. So you will pay any amount of money for it, even money that you don't have. As, you know, anything essential, food, water, these are subject to inelastic demand. People will always need food, water, medicine, and shelter, no matter how high the pricing is. So companies have a very strong incentive to increase the price to as much as they can possibly get, because they know that people would have no choice but to pay for it. And that's the motive behind this behind the price gouging. But there are enough conservatives and neoliberals and people who generally are, pro-free market in government, that they are committed to not regulating any of this. A lot of times because they get money directly from these companies. When they up the price of the Nacho Bel Grande, you will cease to exist. Well, you better watch out because they're gonna do it soon, or something. But to give a silver lining to all this, it is possible that this is like the one bridge too far. Because of how high profile this instance of price gouging is, it might actually spark political discourse that's literally too big to ignore. Because that's what media outlets have done in the past. You know, I would think there's plenty of news story opportunities to be found by saying, look at what this drug company is doing. You know, big expose. They're charging people more money than they have for these insulin vials or for these cancer treatments or whatever. But they never run stories like that because of two things. First, if it bleeds, it leads mentality. Sensational journalism is a real thing. Yellow journalism, when you learn about it in school, that is still what we do today. But then the second thing is that news outlets, this is what I was talking about. Yeah, that's right, EpiPens. This is another example of that actually did get some news coverage because a lot of people have, allergies that are severe enough that they would need access to an EpiPen. But a lot of media outlets get donations to keep themselves afloat from big donors, big advertisers, one of which is the pharmaceutical industry, or, being a lot of companies from the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah, they expire every year. You know how much they cost to produce? They only cost like $1 to produce, or something like that. In fact, I can look it up right now. How much do EpiPens cost to make? Cost just several dollars to make. Okay, CNBC. This seems like it'd be decently reputable. A 2-pack of EpiPens can cost $600 or more, but the device reportedly costs just several dollars to make. Experts argue its medicinal value at $1. So a pack of EpiPens, a 2-pack, costs about $1 to make, give or take. Let's be generous. Let's say $2. But they sell for $600. This is for no other reason than the company can get away with it. Whoa! Ouch. Damn, that sent me flying. So in that case, it's even more extreme than the COVID vaccine, because the COVID vaccine costs $1.18, and they only jacked it up to $130. I know, only. That's still 10,000%. But in the other case, that is a 30,000% markup. EpiPens are sold for 30,000% the cost of production. And the news media doesn't often air stories about it. Very not often does it happen. And when they do, governments frequently don't take action on it because, the interests of private capital, the interests of government, overlap sometimes.
Oh, I need to get out of the way.
Okay. And you know what? I can actually provide a personal example to this as well. This is less extreme, but it's the same with my depression medicine. It's supposedly already paid for by insurance, but oftentimes when I go to pick it up at the pharmacy, I'm charged an extra $20. So on top of what my parents already pay for my insurance plan, because I'm on their insurance plan as per Obamacare, The pharmacy, at least when I was in college, the pharmacy charged me an additional $20 out of pocket for no reason. They didn't. I actually asked them, like, why do I need to pay $20 for my medicine? I already have insurance. You know, my parents' insurance already covers this. And they didn't tell me anything aside from basically, that's the rule, that's the way it is. So, you know, I forked over the $20 for medicine that would stop me from killing myself. Thankfully, though, now I don't think the pharmacy up near where I live, I don't think it actually charges me anything. At least I don't remember it doing so the last couple times I've gotten my prescription refilled. So it might be a state-by-state thing, but even still, you know, it's kind of fucked up.